Hello, everybody. This is Maxine Taylor once again with Move Into the Magic. And as you know, my guests are all those people who are lifting the level, the vibratory rate of our beautiful planet, who are the true movers and shakers, not the ones we see on the large screen necessarily, but the ones who are really making a difference. And my guest today is truly one of them, Dr. Jude Currivan. Now, as I say her name, some of you know who she is. She is a cosmologist, planetary healer, and author, and previously one of the most senior business women in the UK. She has experienced multidimensional realities since childhood and worked with the wisdom keepers, both incarnate and discarnate, of many traditions. Jude integrates leading edge science, research into consciousness, and universal wisdom teachings into a holistic, whole world view. And she'll share this with you in just a moment. I want to give you some background so you'll know why I'm so thrilled she's our guest today. This underpins her work aimed at enabling transformational and emergent resolutions to our collective planetary issues, raising awareness and empowering fundamental change and sustainable solutions to global problems. She holds a PhD in archaeology and a master's degree in physics, this one from Oxford University. And just as an interesting point, in 2014, she was invited to become a member of the Evolutionary Leaders Circle, which includes Deepak Chopra, Barbara Marx Hubbard, Jean Houston, and my personal favorite, Ervin Laszlo. And so, welcome, Jude Currivan, to Move Into the Magic.
Thank you, Max. Thanks, everybody. It's lovely to be with you today. And Happy New Year, everyone. We're recording this on the 5th of January. So, Happy New Year, everyone. May it be wonderful, truly full of wonder for us all.
Oh, yes. And I know your new book, The Cosmic Hologram, in/formation at the Center of Creation, which is due to come out in March in the US and in April in the UK. I know that this book is groundbreaking, earth-changing, and I would love you, if you would, to take the rest of the show to tell us about this book. I may have questions for you, but please tell us about this book. Has taken a while in its gestation period, and it's ready to be birthed very, very shortly. Tell us about this amazing book, and where can we get a copy of it? I'm already going to be on Amazon.
Well, yes, absolutely. Folks can advance order it on Amazon already, whether it's Amazon.com in the US or Amazon.co.uk in the UK or elsewhere. And thank you so much for this opportunity, because this I've been wanting to write this book for 60 years, Maxine, because when I was 4 years old, like you, very early in my life, I began having multidimensional experiences. And when I was 4, a discarnate light came into my room, started to communicate with me. But what that opened up were numerous experiences of what I call walking between worlds. And I, very early on, and continue to experience realities, multidimensional realities, as completely interconnected, and yet at different levels of awareness and experience. And I experienced realities as a cosmic hologram, literally, on many, many different levels. And of course, many years after that, I realized that the ancient mystics in India had perceived the nature of reality in this way. They called it Indras net. And they said, imagine a myriad of jewels of many, many, many different colors, and every facet of every jewel mirrors and links and connects with every other jewel throughout infinity. And all of the jewels are connected by golden threads of light. It's a beautiful. They call that Indras net. They said that is the deep nature of reality. Everything is part of a unified whole. Everything mirrors everything else at all scales of existence and many, many different levels of awareness. And so that's how I began to experience the cosmic hologram and the nature of reality. But of course, with mystical experiences and ever more understanding this and communicating with many different levels of wisdom keepers, incarnate, indigenous people, but also discarnate entities, that understanding of the nature of reality continued in my life experiences and studies and researches to develop and expand. And so, yes, I did a master's degree at Oxford and studied cosmology and quantum physics, and that was another piece of the languaging and the puzzle. And then I did a PhD at the University of Reading in the UK, studying ancient cosmologies and bringing all that ancient wisdom that I'd worked with for so long into the piece. But ultimately, it's been a lifelong, for me, a lifelong journey of not just how reality is as it is, but why. Why is it as it is? You know, so many folks have asked me, and I worked for many years as a healer and also as an astrologist. So I was working psychologically with people and emotionally with people to help empower them to behold themselves. And so many times I was asked, why are things the way they are? Yes. Well, this book, for the first time ever, brings all of the evidence to show why reality is as it is and why it is as it is. And for the first time ever, we have enough scientific-based experience across every level and scale of existence, all fields of research, to come to the same conclusion as universal spiritual experience. And the conclusion is that information is reality, that mind is matter, and that consciousness isn't something we have, it's what we and the whole world are. And we see that in the patternings, the informational patternings that underpin and pervade all we call reality. For many years, right over 100 years, physicists changed their view of the nature of physical reality. Before that, it was the Newtonian idea of things, objects, a very mechanistic universe. Still, you know, having a larger picture, but nonetheless things that couldn't interact at a distance. They collided with each other, they moved around each other. But then in the early 20th century came the scientific revolution of quantum physics for the very small and relativity theory for the bigger. But the thing is that quantum physics showed that what we think of as solid objects are not solid at all. They are 99.999999999% no thingness, and even the 0.0001% is just a field of influence. It's an excitation. It's not a tiny, tiny little billiard ball. It's literally an excitation of energy. But the key thing is that in the interim period, different theorists have shown that information is as physically real as any atom. In fact, the subatomic particles of excitations are more fundamentally represented as information. And the same digital bits of information that make up all our technologies, it's the way we're speaking now and we're connecting with our audience now. All those digital bits, all of the digitized information that make up our virtual realities and our holograms, our man-made holograms, they're the kids' toys, they're the children's toys, for which physical reality is the masterpiece, is the masterclass. And so on that and many other levels, what science is now showing, for example, that the ancient geometers of Greece, Plato, etc., who intuited and understood that geometric patterns formed all reality. Well, a few years ago, a wonderful scientist called Benoit Mandelbrot discovered that everything is underlain by what's called fractal geometries, fractal patterns. They're not the idealized triangles and squares of the ancient Greeks. They're fragmented geometries, but they're nonetheless ordered patterns. And they scale up and they scale down like all geometry. And they're holographic like all geometry is. So all of this convergence of science across cosmology and physics and biology and chemistry and complex systems, as well as all of the mathematical underpinnings of that, show that our physical world arises from these mathematical informational patternings that pervade everything in our universe, that are our universe. So the same patterns that guide atomic transformations or phase transitions guide clusters of galaxies along electromagnetic filaments. It's the same patterns. Yeah, the same patterns that are the fractal underpinnings for our ecosystems are exactly the same patterns that pervade the internet. The same patternings, the same power laws, relationships that show the frequency and the power of earthquakes are exactly the same relationships between the frequency and the scale of human conflicts. If you plot a graph of earthquakes, you get the same power law of frequency and size than if you actually plot human conflicts and frequency and level of fatalities, the same pattern. The same patterns flow through our social behaviors as do natural, so-called natural systems. Everything is information. Everything is informational patterns playing out. So we mirror each other. We mirror our world. We mirror on an individual level our collective behaviors. So when we see what we do individually, when we see how we behave individually, that patterns up through our families, our groups of friends, our neighborhoods, to our collective, our nations, to our collective behavior. And all of it is consciousness playing out, existing and evolving, literally as a universe soul, born 13.8 billion years ago, existing, evolving with exquisite order and fine-tuning, evolving consciousness, evolving ever greater levels of self-aware consciousness through a lifetime, a finite thought bubble in the infinite and eternal cosmic mind of the of cosmic mind, of God, of whatever term we want to define cosmic mind. Cosmic mind is consciousness. We are a thought form. We are a microcosmic co-creator of realities. We're here for a reason. We're here for a purpose. It's not random. We are a microcosm of the mesocosm, of the macrocosm, of the divine cosmic intelligence of the cosmos. How cool is that?
You have explained it so magnificently. and may I ask you a question?
Please do.
Since we both have an astrological background and we understand the repetitious patterns, many astrologers, many historians go back and look at historical events, and those who plot planetary ties will say, oh, we're going to be experiencing the same eclipse patterns, for example, that were experienced in the same places in the world that we did X number of years ago. which sounds almost like, oh my word, we're going to go through that same exact situation. And I see you shaking your head. Because to me, that doesn't make sense. We must be evolving. Please talk about that. With the Pluto return, for example, that we talked about prior to going on the air. Perfect example.
Absolutely. Well, can I take a step back from the astrology to explain why it isn't deterministic in that sense? In the mid-18th century, a gentleman, a scientist called Ludwig Boltzmann, came up with two fundamental laws of physical reality called the laws of thermodynamics.
Yes.
And the first one is that in a closed system, energy is conserved. In other words, it can change its form, but it's always conserved. But the second law said a concept called entropy always has to increase. And in those days, and for many years, it was thought that entropy was a measure of order and disorder, and order always moving towards disorder, thermodynamically, yeah?
Yeah.
But in the mid-1950s, an IBM engineer called Claude Shannon realized that the second law of thermodynamics, the equation that shows what entropy is about, is exactly the same as what defines the information content of a system. So what I've done in this new book is expand and restate those two laws of thermodynamics as two laws of information. And all that we know now about our universe in terms of it very, very likely to be finite, it is closed, we know it had a beginning, it's looking very likely on the latest evidence to have an end. Everything we know means we can restate those laws as laws of information. Now, the first law, then, is that all the energy matter, because we now know that energy and matter are equivalent, thanks to quantum physics, all the energy matter of our universe, from its beginning to its end, is conserved. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Which means it changes its form, but it doesn't increase or decrease. Information expressed as energy matter is conserved. Now, what that means is the basic physics of our universe, the rules of it play out from the beginning to the end. The planets in their orbits, us around the galaxy, biological systems, all the rest of it that involve energy matter, information expressed as energy matter. Time doesn't matter. No concept of time, no concept of evolution, just existence, okay? And that's the first law. Now, this is where the really key thing is. Restate, and that, by the way, is on the way you explain quantum theory. Let's put that to one side. The second law is a game changer, because this comes to information expressed as space-time entropically at space-time, as space-time always increases, which means that time must flow and space must expand, because what the cosmic hologram also shows, and this is what leading edge physics is saying, is that what we think of as three-dimensional space is a holographic projection from a two-dimensional boundary of our universe. And every tiny area, so-called Planck area of that holographic boundary, holds one bit of information. So rather like a balloon, as space expands, our universe can hold more and more and more information as time flows. So the first law enables our universe to exist, the second to evolve. Now, the first law is great about astrology in the sense of the periodicities and the influence, but it's the second law and the recognition that our universe is literally a coherent, intelligent entity where everything is interconnected, which means that as time goes on, literally time is a spiral. So as those same periodicities come round, we've learned more, we're going through more, we're evolving more. Their influences, the energy matter as it were, those influences are the same, but how we respond, how we deal with those is different because we're different. Because in that timing, every Planck scale, which is time is the entropic flow of information. So time is our universe thinking. Space is our universe breathing. And so with those two laws restated, we understand how our universe exists and evolves, how we, as self-aware beings, are microcosmic co-creators of this continuing exploration of consciousness, and how our solar system is literally a matrix of consciousness within which, as human beings, we can, and as much more than that, can experience and explore and evolve the very nature of consciousness and what it is to be self-aware beings and co-creators of our realities.
So what I'm hearing and feeling is that this book that you have written, The Cosmic Hologram, it gives us hope.
Yes! What it aims to do, and what I feel the evidence, the vast amount of evidence that I put together leads to, is a perspective that duality is just appearance, that reality is unified. This book unifies reality. It unifies scientific evidence with universal spiritual experience. It empowers us to take into our own hands our own destiny,
yes,
who we are and how we are and how we are with each other. And you know, it's our fragmented worldview. And we know as healers, it's our fragmented worldview that drives our fragmented behaviors.
yes.
When we heal our worldview, ultimately we're able to heal our behaviors. And this is what the book is about. And it's the first book of a trilogy. And the second and third book continue this journey into wholeness from a continuing deeper and bigger perspective of consciousness. But this first book lays out the evidence for the unification of reality. And this is the first step, this is the seed point to healing our worldview into a whole worldview, and healing ourselves and healing our relationship with our beloved Gaia and the wider cosmos and all there is.
So you and I are going to be talking more as 2 and 3 come out, and maybe like the Star Wars movies, you'll have a prequel. Who knows?
I can be rogue too, can't I?
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this. I, of course, you were totally led to write this book. There's no question about that. But when you, and as you sat down many years ago to begin this, did you have a goal in mind? Did you have an outcome in mind? The simple question, why did you write this book? It may not be a simple answer, but listening to you describe the book is very uplifting. I don't have the scientific background you do. It's a more humanistic understanding that is thrilling to me. So, Jude, why'd you write the book, honey?
Well, Maxine, as I said, I experience realities in this way since I was 4 years old. So, you know, in a way, the book's been gestating for 60 odd years. But I couldn't write it till now. I co-wrote a book with Irvin Laszlo some years back called Cosmos, a co-creator's guide to the whole world. And that was the first sort of outing of the scientific perspective of the cosmic hologram. When I then wrote my book Hope in 2010, I wrote a chapter on astrology that called The Bigger Picture. And I actually wrote then saying I felt this time was the time with, you know, all what Pluto and Uranus and Neptune are doing, the outer planets guiding our evolution, that this whole world view of the cosmic hologram would find a resonance within everyone. And that was, I wrote that 6 years ago. My publisher is saying the book could not come out even 2 years ago because people weren't ready. I started to write the book, or more rightly, the book began to write me 2 years ago. And when I immersed myself into that, and it was a call. It felt a call. The scientific evidence was just flooding in, and you know, for folks who read the book, you'll realize that all of the evidence I refer to is, most of it is the last few months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. So I literally, it could not be written by now because its evidence wasn't here. It's literally the time whose idea has come.
Yeah.
Or the idea whose time has come. So it's now, and I feel that, you know, for me, there's no accident. Einstein said, you can treat life as though nothing's a miracle or everything's a miracle. I'm on the everything's a miracle stuff. And it feels that it's a seed point of hope. And that's my intention and aim and hope for it, that folks can feel empowered by it. And realize, by the way, that when I talk about unity awareness, I'm not talking about a big, great, homogeneous sludge for everybody. I'm saying that this is celebrating our incredible, rich diversity, who we truly are within the oneness, where we literally can celebrate and come together and value every gift, every perspective of life, not of death, not of fear, but literally come together in love for each other and for our beloved Gaia and all her children and
Jude,
the wider cosmos.
I can't thank you enough for being my guest today. And of course, you will be back. Rogue 2, you will be back. And I hope that everybody out there has enjoyed this marvelous, brilliant woman and the work that she is doing to lift our planet. And I hope you'll join me next time when once again we move into the magic. Until then, this is Maxine Taylor reminding you that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.